Today, we're going to continue with where we left off on the compensation topic. So we are working with the compensation overview. We looked at what compensation is. We worked on creating the grades and grade profiles. I requested you guys to replicate that as part of the assignment. Now, I do understand this was a lot to take on, but I think yesterday's session was the yesterday time when we didn't have a session could have been used to practice more on grades and grade profiles, and hopefully you would have utilized that time to the best. Now, today we're going to start with creating of plans and understanding the next piece of it. Now, before I do any hands-on, let me just open up what we have created so far. So the grades that we have created, if I have to access it, I just run the report compensation grade. And I can add in the grade that I created. And I can see this is the grade that we have created. These are the default values. There's still one piece missing, which is the eligibility rules, which we'll come to that a little later. And then we added in the grade profiles, one for Canada and one for US, I think. And US, we went specific to Boston and California location, gave different ranges. And this is what we did in the previous sessions. I'll take a pause. Anyone has any questions? Anyone practiced or whoever practiced had questions on this?
Rohan, while creating these profiles, even I received this alert, which was saying few features are not available or due to security or something. Could you please expand the alert which you have gotten here? The compensation set. Yeah, regarding this security segment, even I have received a page alert. Should we just overlook this?
Yes. This is regarding a segment security. There's something called as segmented security groups and segmented security. And the reason you're getting is because you see this option accessible by users granted segment.
Okay.
So each area within Workday has some segments, which if it's a security concept. It's basically, if you don't want to give complete access to a particular area of Workday, you only want to give access to certain segments, then we use this. So someone has enabled that segmented security within the tenant. So that's why you're getting that alert. But you can definitely overlook this. There's nothing that it affects any of our configuration in any way.
Got it. And Rohan, we are creating prime location eligibility criterias in which we have chosen two locations. For example, you did Boston and California, if I'm right. I did two other places. So in that situation, can we use or it should be only and?
You can pick or as well.
Okay, so or will mean the employee can be either in Boston or in California, right?
Correct.
So if we want both the conditions to be satisfied, then it has to be and.
Yes, but in this case, it has to be an or, because you cannot have an employee working in Boston and California at the same time. And if we have done an and condition, I think. Oh, yeah, okay. In this case, see. Okay. All right. So this particular field is saying that your A is your location, your primary location. It can be any in the selection list. So by any, it means it can either be Boston or California. If since this is a multi-instance field, I don't want to go into the details of what that is. If I've used a different field instead of this, which has like a one-on-one relationship, like in that case, if this had been primary location is equal to Boston, and in another row, I would add primary location is equal to California. In that case, my logic would be or. But right
Right.
now, the field that I'm using, it gives me or it allows me to pick any of these. It will
Right.
automatically pick any of these. It won't have to worry about whether the employee is working in Boston or California. It won't be both, obviously, but it
Mhm.
will pick up any one of the location.
Okay, so if the external field, if it is going to be the location hyphen primary, then this condition is satisfied now.
Uh, in this case, it's more on the type of field which is defined by this symbol. Uh,
Okay.
this is a multi-instance field, all right? If this would have been
Right.
a single instance field, there's another field type called a single
Right.
instance. In
Mhm.
that case, I cannot add in multiple values here. I can only add one. But in this case, the type of field that I've picked up allows me to add multiple values. Even if I pick up, add in 10 more values here, it will
Mhm.
still pick up one at a time.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I got the answer. Thanks. Thanks, Rohan.
I think an easier way to, a good observation though, an easy way to understand is through the relation operator. I think I did mention it when we were creating this, that based on the type of your field, the options that you get in relational operator will change.
Mhm.
Okay. So it says any in the selection list that should clear that it could be any from this. It doesn't have, it cannot be both. Obviously, it would be one of these when you run this.
Okay.
So, Methi, since you practiced this, I just want to get an understanding from you how easy or how convenient you felt when you were creating these values. Did you face any difficulties? How
Yeah.
was your
When I
experience?
started with USA, yes, it looked a little, it- not little, a lot more complex. But I did USA, Canada, Australia, and India. And while I was doing the Australia, that was the last grade profile which I was creating, then things fell in place actually. um, I had I had an error because initially I entered the minimum value in segment 1, so the midpoint value didn't match and it was throwing me error continuously during my USA grade profile creation. And then I understood that the minimum amount has to come in that minimum tab, not in the segment 1. When
Correct.
I changed it, then it was okay.
Yes. So you have to populate the minimum, and like if I show in the screen, you have to enter the minimum value and the top level,
Right.
and then just
Yeah.
enable that checkbox, and it
Enable that.
automatically
It
calculates it.
automatically populates. Yes, right.
So,
Um,
but if
yeah.
you understood something, if you observe something, if anytime you have to add in a new grade profile, it will not
Mm-hmm.
take you more than couple minutes if you have all the information you need.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I have to create a couple of location hierarchies. So I did because I didn't have Canada and Australia in place before. So I did that and I added it here. It
yeah,
was, yeah.
that's okay. But in real world, in real time, you will have all these already created.
Mm-hmm.
Just to create any of the compensation component, it should not take you more than 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
So that's how easy. Just bringing on to that point or emphasizing on the point that I said, that creation of all the compensation pieces are very easy. It's just the eligibility rules that takes time in understanding and takes time in getting to know where it is used and how to use it.
Right.
So with
Yeah.
that, let's move on to the next piece of our design framework on the compensation plans. And I'll reference back to this particular visual. So we have created this left side. Now I'm going to focus on the right hand side, this part. All right. So compensation plans, let's recap what they do is they allow you to enter the amount, exact dollar amount or whatever currency you're in for that particular employee. If that employee is a salaried employee, they will get a salary based on the range they are eligible for. If they are eligible for a car allowance, they'll get a car allowance as well. Right. So let's go back to our tenant and start creating the salary plan. Task is simple, create salary. Whatever plan you are trying to create, just write the type. Like you see, there are the types as well. You can create those as well. But this is a standard salary plan, which every organization has. You can give it a name. We'll come back to the eligibility rule. We don't need this. Moving to the right side, again, restating what I mentioned earlier, every compensation element or component that you create will have some defaults. In case of grades, the defaults are different. When you come to plan, your defaults are a little different, right? So apply FTE. It's always a good practice to enable this. And what that is I'll just hover over this and let's just read the description. It says apply FTE percentage prorates compensation for employees assigned to this plan based on the full-time equivalent hours percentage. Now, what that means is if an employee is working in the US or any part of the country and they are working based on their full-time schedule, let's say it's 40 hours, right? So that means their FTE percentage is 100% because it matches the default hours of that particular region, right? As per some criteria, working 40 hours a week means that you are working full time and in your full capacity. But let's say your scheduled hours is 40 hours, but you are working 20 hours only, or you're scheduled to work only 20 hours in a region where the standard work week is of 40 hours. In that case, you are 50% FTE. Your FTE is full-time equivalent. Now, based on your FTE, the value will change. You don't have to create any specific plans or any grades. If you have, let's say, if I go back to this table, let's say you're working in Canada, and based on the profile that you have, your minimum is 50,000, your maximum is 90,000. Let's say you're entitled for a 90,000 value. Like this is what your salary is if you're working 40 hours a week. But for some time you're only working 20 hours. That means you're working half time, which makes your FTE percentage 50%. That means you'll only be paid 45,000 Canadian dollars for that particular time. Your FTE percentage is nothing but helps proration. The concept is called as prorated or proration. Some of you must be already familiar. Nothing very fancy, but it just automatically adjusts the values for you. You don't have to do any manual computation for these. Compensation element. Now, this is that element which is linked to your earning codes, and earning codes is a language that payroll understands, right? There are some of these elements are Workday delivered. Most of them are Workday delivered, which I've seen organizations using, but in this tenant, you will see a lot more than that as well. So don't confuse yourself. Keep it simple. If you're looking for allowance, just type in allowance. If you're looking for car allowance, type in car allowance. If you're looking for one-time bonus, type in bonus. In our case, we'll use the base pay. And this is something which goes on your paycheck, right? If let's say, if you are creating an allowance plan, which we'll do next, we'll use the different compensation element here, right? And then again, process eligibility does not impact any of our configurations because you're not using advanced compensation, right? It was that simple. It was literally that simple. Now, one thing we didn't do is eligibility. If I don't add anything here, that means nobody is eligible for this plan or everybody is eligible for this plan. It's nobody will be eligible for this plan. This would just be a plan. It's not doing anything. So what I'll do is I'll create an eligibility logic based on our, it says that it should only be for all FlexCon employees. So what I'll do is I'll create an eligibility logic for all FlexCon employees. Okay. this eligibility rule will do is that it will make this plan eligible for all salaried employees hired in FlexCon. Nobody outside that. So description, all employees supervisory. I use this. And pick the top level so that it inherits. One second. Yeah, just wanted to check something. So I've created this eligibility rule, which is all FlexCon employees. Now I'm going to go ahead and add it here. The one that I created. Now, once I save this, now this plan is more specific to our requirements. Is any employer hired in FlexCon will now be, if they are on a salary plan, they will be eligible for this particular salary plan. It's that simple. Creation of this is that simple. And the next piece of our creation is a car allowance plan, which is based on two different eligibility logics. And let's go about creating that and keep this page open. And go here. Allowance. Date. And then you have three types. Amount based, you can skip reimbursable because it's applicable to certain modules of Workday. One of them is Workday expense. If your organization has Workday expense in place, then using this makes sense. Else you can skip it. Okay, so you have three types: amount based, person based, unit based. Each of them has a different use. If it's a static amount, like in our case, it's 50 Canadian dollars or 70 US dollars, we'll use amount base. If you want to create it as a percentage base, and it will be like a 10% of your annual salary or something, it will be driven by that. Unit based would be how many units you have sold. Like what you define as a unit will become your unit. There's no restrictions of what your unit can be. You have to define what that unit looks like. Our case is applicable to amount-based plans, so we'll continue with that. Same thing, just few minor changes. We'll give the name, allowance, give it the element. Now the element would change to car allowance. By looking at the other ones, I can see that they all are custom, but the one on the top is the Workday delivered. Yep. So I'll add that. Now I can add the value here, which is 50 and 70. But I have two different values based on two different locations. All right. So if I enter one of them here, let's say if I enter 50 and I enter the currency as Canadian, and I enter the frequency, in this case it's quarterly, and make the changes, obviously enable this as well, and keep it, save it. That's one way to go about it. I've created a plan, all right, and I've not added an eligibility rule. If I add an eligibility rule here, that employee is in Canada and is a manager, because if you see something here, this is only for managers, anyone in the management grade this particular eligibility logic says that anyone in the management grade in Canada will get this, right? But we have not added an eligibility rule. We can definitely add one that says that employee is a manager and is in Canada. Then this configuration is perfect. We don't need any change. And then we create another car allowance plan, which does the same thing, except that we change the eligibility logic to employee is a manager and is in US. And we change the value to 70 and the currency to US, and everything remains the same, right? But every time we have a new location, every time we have a new region added into the system, do we continue to create more allowance plan? That is not a scalable solution, which is why we use plan profiles. I'll go to the plan, go in the edit mode. So there's something called as plan profiles, similar to the concept of grade profiles. What you do is, instead of entering values here, we enter the values here based on the eligibility logic, right? So let me use that. So if the employee is from FlexCon location, Boston or California, they will get the value of 70 USD. If the employee country is Canada, these are those same eligibility rules which we use in our grade profiles, which I'm using here. This would be 50, right? Now, if anyone is hired as a manager in any of these locations, they will get these values. And if any new hire comes outside these locations, they will get this value by default. Though we have not added the management rule yet, which we'll add in a minute, but assuming that we have that rule, this is how you work with it. It's the same concept of grade profiles, just if you have more locations, you add them here, instead of creating new allowance plan every single time you have a new location. Manisha, I see your hand raised. Do you have a question? Please go ahead.
You're considering the sheet what you have as should we consider that while preparing this, or should we make another one?
No, this is like a reference guide for you. So I think I asked you guys to take a picture of it.
No, I do have the picture, but the values will be same, or we can change that.
Yeah, values, you can change the numbers. That's absolutely okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rest all we can use from this, right?
Yes. So that was about car allowance. Again, if we can understand that in less than 5-10 minutes, then I think creation of that will not take much time. The only piece missing in all these plans is the management criteria, which I'll have to spend some more time outside this session because the management levels are not correctly set up. It's all messed up. So I'm just trying to figure a way to recreate them and have that eligibility logic added. But that's okay. We can still move on to our next step. That is, so we have created these allowance plans. The only thing missing in the grades and the plans is a management level. We have not added an eligibility logic that differentiates a management level from non-management. Okay, but creation of plans, any questions on creation of these plans? Lavanya, go ahead.
Since we haven't, declared the eligibility rules for the management, so whoever is hired into the company, so they can have this allowance.
As of
right
now.
As of now, right? Okay, that's not my question.
Okay.
As of now, I mean, this allowance, I mean, is eligible for all the employees, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Sure. Any questions on creation of this? Any confusion is how to create these? Okay. Now the next and the last piece in the compensation, I won't say the last because we still have the eligibility rule to figure out, is the compensation package. Let's create that. I think this is creation of compensation package is the most simplest thing one can do. So let me open that in a new tab, bring it here. Create the task is simple, create compensation package. Give it a name, FlexCon compensation package. Now, in the grade section, you'll populate the grade. In the plan section, you'll populate the plans. So let's do that. Management grade. We have not yet created a non-management grade. We'll create that once we'll have that eligibility logic figured out. And in the plan, we'll add all the plans that we have created. One is the salary plan. And if you see something, once I populate it, automatically populates the eligibility rule used in that particular compensation piece. The color lines, there is no eligibility yet added. Now that's the easy part of creating a compensation. You add in the grades, you add in the plan. Don't worry about the basis. You're not gonna touch that, right? But how do we ensure, like we have ensured that all FlexCon employees will get the salary plan? That's okay. But does it ensure that all FlexCon employees become part of this package? No. So what we'll do is we're going to use the same eligibility logic. And add it here. That all FlexCon employees are now eligible for FlexCon compensation package. Now, even if I remove this, it will still work the same way. Because Workday evaluates the package eligibility first. Now, first it will identify whether an employee is eligible for this package, and then only it will come to your grades and your plans. So if an employee is outside this package or outside FlexCon, then they won't get anything from this package. If they are part of this employee organization called FlexCon, then it will evaluate whether the employee is a management or a non-management. Based on that, your plans will also differ. That is how seamless and simple compensation is, but obviously there's quite complexity when it comes to, basically when we keep it this simple at this level, it's very simple. But if you have employees of 5,000 headcount, then yes. And if you have more than 5 or 10 packages, then yes, the complexity increases. But the concept of understanding or the concept of processing the compensation or creation of the compensation remains the same. Yes, Abhishek, go ahead.
Rohan, I just wanted to understand one thing. Usually when we work in a company scenario, we see there are different types of people working in the company. Some of them will be contingent workers, some of them will be contractors, some of them will be on fixed term basis, some of them will be on a permanent role. So for all this, we see that there are different compensation packages because the benefits will vary from individual to individual. I mean, group, when I say individual to individual, that is from one group of employee to other group of employee. So the benefits or the allowances which a contractor will be getting, that will not get applied to a permanent employee who is working in the company. So do we have any such example wherein we can see even for contractors? Because this is a simple one. But I mean, do we have any scenario or any example wherein we can see that how this compensation varies or uh,
Yes,
for
absolutely. See, and you'll do it yourself.
okay.
Once I have that management rule set up, I'll spend some time today and should be fixed by tomorrow because someone messed it up real bad. So I'll fix that by tomorrow and we'll create another grade for non-management. Okay. And then we'll create some hires and you will see the difference yourself that a management grade is eligible for allowances while the non-management grade is not eligible, though you can add it on an ad hoc basis, but by default, they don't get it. And when it comes to contractor, Workday does not hold any compensation information for contractors because contractors, the employer is not your organization for contractor workers or contingent workers. Workday only holds salary or compensation information for workers who are of type employee, not contingent worker. And a very good distinction you can look at is, let me, package. Let's say you have this package, executive compensation package. You see, it's only applicable to country UK and a job profile of 1 or level 2. So if you try to hire someone in UK with this level, they become eligible for all these. They will get something from this grade and these plans that are listed here. There are a lot of plans. And even at plans, you see there's a lot of eligibility rules. So as your organization grows, the more plans you have, the more packages, the complexity increases. And I think this particular package is a good example. You can hire someone in UK outside your organization obviously, and based on any of these levels, try to hire someone and use one of these job profiles which are mentioned in those eligibility logics and see how that works. That would be a good hands-on. You don't want to, push everyone to that level of complexity because it might just disrupt the current understanding of where we are. But please feel free to explore this.
Rohan Jissa here. I just wanted to confirm how would you differentiate these other factors in compensation and from the benefit package?
Sorry, can you be a little more specific?
I'm sorry, I couldn't. Your voice is low. I'm not sure if it is only for me.
No, I'm asking, can you please repeat, be specific in your question? What do you mean by other factors?
Like this car allowance and all, they either they can come under benefits, but now since it is under compensation, how would you differentiate which components would fall under benefit?
No, none of these fall under benefits. Benefits are completely different within Workday. Workday benefits are your FSA, your HSA, your who's your vision provider, your healthcare provider. That is what your Workday benefits are. These are your compensation benefits. I know in general terminology, we say what benefits you get is you get these allowances, but specific to Workday ecosystem, your compensation benefits are different from your actual Workday benefits. Your Workday benefits are your all these healthcare plans, your vision, your dental, everything related to your health, they are nothing related to your compensation. Your compensation benefits, on the other hand, are these allowances, one-time payments, etc., etc.
Does the referral bonus or anything like those components fall under compensation, or would they fall
Compensation.
under benefits?
Everything under compensation.
Okay.
Everything related to money is in compensation. Like any extra that you're getting from company is your compensation. Anything you are paying from your salary for some benefits, that is actually your benefits. Like you pay insurance, right? That goes out of your pocket. That is your workday benefits. Your healthcare insurance, your vision, your dental, all that goes out of your salary, right? So that is your benefits, workday benefits. Anything that you receive in form of money or any stocks or anything is your compensation.
So all those that fall under deductions would go under benefits.
Yes.
Good. Thank you.
All right. So, okay, 1 second. So we created the package. Yes. Now, the first assignment that was shared was to create the grades and grade profiles. Once you do that, the second assignment is to replicate this. If you want to explore more, you can definitely add another car allowance plan, another hourly, a new hourly plan. Please feel free to do that if you get time, if you are comfortable with these plans. Once you do that, the third part of the assignment is to create the package and add everything that you have created. Right? Once you do that, we'll move on to the next step of hiring someone, which we'll do in the upcoming sessions. And that is for today's session. It was simple, it was light. I hope it made sense. And we are not speeding up anything as well. We now gonna work around testing everything that we have created, but giving you back some time so that you can create these elements if you have not already done so. Create those, get an understanding, connect the dots, put everything together in package. Once you do that, we'll come back to hiring people and do the testing of these elements.
Rohan, just a couple of questions since it is compensation. This might be something that you already might have covered, but since I was joined 5 minutes late, I might have missed. So when you're creating these compensation criterias, how is it connected? Is it connected with a payment, or does this any company has an hard and fast rule to run the payroll through Workday, or they can just stop it till they differentiate or add the data? I'm sorry if I'm making any sense.
Not entirely, but Workday payroll talks in the language of earning codes, right? And the compensation elements that we looked at, like for example, if I open up this plan, car allowance, so the payroll system understand this, not this basically. Payroll system understand compensation elements which are used to create earning codes, and those earning codes is what payroll understand. Now, I don't know the details of how that conversion happens or how that information is processed on the payroll side, but these elements make an important part of your compensation because this is what is used, or it is used to link with the earning codes on the payroll. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm just trying to put in connect dots. So once an organization puts in all these data of each and every employee, so there the project ends.
When you say they enter information about employee, you mean
once we create these criterias and all the employees, as soon as they get tagged to one particular requisition and one particular hierarchy, automatically these factors by default they get connected, they carry their hierarchy features. So what would be a Workday consultant on? Would there be a continuous work, or will the project ends once the implementation is done?
So the work of a Workday consultant never ends, that's for sure. Now, what you would do if you are working specifically on the compensation side is maybe twice or thrice a month you get a request that this grade profile needs to be updated with the new ranges. So what you will do is you'll go to the grade profile, you will update the ranges. That's a very common task. Or if your company is expanding to a new location, you will have to enter new grade profiles. You will do that. Or an employee, a new hire is not getting the right compensation package, or they're not in the right category. You will go in and troubleshoot. So your work never ends. But when it comes to, obviously, you don't set up all these things on a day-to-day basis. You set them up once, and based on the eligibility criterias, based on these, an employee falls into that particular package, that they become eligible for an allowance or whatever grade they should be. So that happens once you set up all this. But definitely there are enhancements, there's updates, there are changes that happens on a daily basis. But not that you have to create everything on a day-to-day basis.
Got it. And how about components, like in India we have gratuity? So how would that be covered here, or it's completely taken care by the payroll system?
I think so. It can be covered here. You can have a allowance plan of something like that. You can create an allowance plan which would be based on some percentage, and the criteria would be that employee years of service is greater than 5 years or something, whatever that benchmark of gratuity is, right? And then based on that, you can give it like a percentage of something, and then they'll be paid out accordingly. But again, it's a business decision if they want to have that as a plan. If they don't want it as a plan and they want to handle it outside Workday and just in payroll, they can also do that.
Got
it
it.
can be handled here as well.
So in our organization, we use Workday, but again, our payslips are completely from a different tool. But I will be able to see whether my salary is being credited every month, but not in detail. So I could never understand how that is. I mean, how does that work?
Now you are familiar with the concepts of these compensation. You can go in and run these reports like compensation package, compensation grade. If you see your profile in the system, let's say if I go to this employee's profile here, and this would be a different visual. Let me go to some other person's profile. Let's say I'm looking at James Brown. So something, if you're looking at your profile, you will also see something as compensation.
Right.
Go to your compensation section and you would see something as
Similar
assignments. If you have the right security access, like which this person has, you can open these and see how they are set up. You can, even if you have not set those up, if you're not hands-on yet on this, at least you can read through what these are and get an understanding and compare it with what we have created so far. So a lot of the learning comes from just observing and see what already exists. If you have the right security access, don't do this in a production environment. Only if you have access to a testing environment in your organization, then go about it, else use this tenant.
No, I'm just an user. I would be able to see the user interface.
Oh,
So
then you won't be having.
I won't be able to see. Yeah.
But at least you can see what grade you have and any allowances if there are. You won't
Yeah.
get them as links. You can only see them as just standard values like here. You won't be able to open them, but definitely just looking at it and then coming back to this tenant and creating your own stuff will get you a better understanding.
Yeah. Like you said, I can only see that whether I'm paid or not for that month. Any further details or further breakup for payslips, we are asked to log into a different tool altogether. So I always used to wonder how these two are integrated.
Oh, that's a completely different ball game. Integration is a different world altogether within Workday. So if you are using any other payroll provider, then a lot of information from Workday goes to your payroll provider through either integrations or reports or both. That is how it works.
Okay. Thank you.
Coming back to, I don't know, someone had questions on staffing models. I forgot who that was.
It was me.
Okay, Anisha, go ahead.
I was trying to create hire in yellow brick level 3A. I was getting some error. Please search and select a person in order to initiate start hire. Okay, it's yellow brick level 3A. Go to details once. Okay, I have also.
Subordinate. You said 3A, right?
I created one subordinate, but
I don't see any 3A here. And no members, no positions yet created.
no, I have not created the positions.
But there's no organization as well, else it would have been listed here. Okay, so
Okay,
let's say if you try to do a hire here, if you're getting the issue there, you will get the issue here as well. Okay, so let's say you are creating for a sales exec. For example, I'm creating 5 positions. Do you have a specific job profile you want to use? Or shall I pick anything right now?
right now you can pick anything you want.
Okay, so something that we have already created. Location.
It's yellow brick. I have created the locations already.
You already have that? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Select all of them. Abhishek, to one of your previous questions, this is where I was saying that Workday compensation only takes care of worker type as employee. If you pick an employee type as worker type as contingent worker, Workday there's no setup for compensation for contingent workers. So a person has to be of type employee in order to get those compensation elements. Now, a subtype can be anything. It can be a fixed type. It can be a casual. It can be an intern, fixed term contract. But as long as the person is of type employee, then only they get that compensation section.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so the positions are requesting an approval. Don't we have Logan here? Oh, we have. Somebody created a duplicate profile for Logan as well, which is crazy. Let me just proxy in as Logan. The create position here, let's approve it. And your positions are now created. Now, if we go about hiring. Okay, so I hope everyone is clear on the assignment. The assignment is to basically replicate everything that you have here for your own organizations. If you have not created these grades and profiles, please go ahead and do that. Then the second would be part 2 of the assignment would be create the plans, create these. Part 3 would be create the package. Once everyone is at the same level, we'll do some hires and play around and test out how these defaulting works. And that's all what compensation is. So the next 2 sessions will be completely testing and Q&A on compensation so that everyone is clear on compensation.